The Los Angeles Rams versus the Green Bay Packers. Who to start, who to sit, and pigskin pick'em. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the Green Bay Packers. Let's get it started.
Quarterbacks.
Aaron Rodgers is currently dealing with a toe injury. I think he's going to play, but he's going to be a little banged up, and it makes me a little nervous with Aaron Donald on the other side. I think you can play Aaron Rodgers, but I do think that he may have some trouble with mobility. So his upside might be slightly limited. He's still a great pocket passer, though. What's next?
Wide receivers.
You start Devontae Adams every single week. He's an absolute beast. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a flyer at best. He has a much better chance of being relevant if Allen Lazard is out. On to the next one.
Running backs.
This one gets a little interesting. Aaron Jones has a chance to play. He's currently questionable. If he plays, look to see if he's on a snap count restriction. If he's not on a restriction, I think you can play him, but his upside is limited, and I still think that A.J. Dillon gets involved. If he does not play and A.J. Dillon has a backfield to himself, I think that he's a fine start. The Rams are one of the best in the league against the run, but a one-man show would be fine. If they're splitting it, I think you could play him, but it's a little more risky. What's next?
Tight ends.
No, thank you. I'm good on the Robert Tonyan. He's touchdown or bust, and I am nervous about this matchup. Next.
Defenses.
No, thank you on the defense either. Next.
Kicker.
No, thank you. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams.
Quarterbacks.
Matthew Stafford's a fine start in this matchup. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. You definitely fire him up. Next.
Wide receivers.
Cooper Kupp's a must-start every single week, of course, but some of you want to play Odell Beckham Jr. I do think the time off will help them get more in sync, but I kind of want to see it before I play him. I have him as a low-end flex play. Van Jefferson, I also think, can be played as a flex play in this matchup. There should be a lot of back and forth. These are two high-scoring teams. It should be a good one, and I think Van Jefferson might get involved. Next.
Running backs.
Darrell Henderson, I think he's going to be a fine play in this matchup. I have him down as a running back too. I think he's going to be pretty solid. Next.
Tight ends.
I think you start Tyler Higbee in this matchup. It should be a high-scoring game back and forth. I think that his upside is pretty limited, but is he going to get more work with Robert Woods out? It'd probably help if he caught the ball. Next.
Defenses.
We haven't seen this defense dominate like we had expected after they got Von Miller. I don't think I want to play them this week, but they do have a juicy matchup next week. So you may want to pick them up if they're out there on your waiver wire. Next.
Kicker.
And I think you can play the kicker. So that's going to do it for the fantasy outlook of this matchup. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em. All right, Geoffrey, what's the spread?
The Packers are 1.5 point favorites in this matchup.
That's a close one. Aaron Rodgers at home is tempting, but with that toe injury, I got to go with the Rams. With Aaron Rodgers possibly running for his life against Aaron Donald, having a bum toe is not going to help that. Rams should be able to take this game, but it's going to be a close one. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Geoffrey, do you have any last words?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Good luck in your matchups this week. Peace. The Indianapolis Colts versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who to start, who to sit, and pigskin pick'em. I'm Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get it started.
Let's start with the quarterback position.
Carson Wentz is actually a solid play in this matchup. I think this should be a high-scoring game. Yes, I know he didn't play well last week, but I mean, Jonathan Taylor scored like 5 touchdowns. Next.
Wide receivers.
Michael Pittman Jr. is a great wide receiver. He had a terrible matchup last week. I think he's a great play in this one. The Bucs' strength is the running game, not so much against the pass. On to the next one.
Running backs.
Jonathan Taylor has been playing out of his mind. This guy has been winning people games, and I think that you have to play him in this matchup. Yes, I know the Bucs' run defense is incredible, but you don't bench Jonathan Taylor. He's a start every week, obviously. Moving on.
Tight ends.
I'm not excited about any of the tight ends. Next.
Defenses.
The Colts defense is solid, but it makes me nervous playing against the Bucs, so I'm going to have to sit that one. There are definitely some better options out there. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Quarterbacks.
You start Tom Brady every single week. He's an absolute beast, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Next.
Wide receivers.
Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are going to be incredible in this matchup. They're great wide receivers, and as long as Antonio Brown is out, that pie has gotten a little bit smaller. Fire them both up. Next.
Running backs. backs.
Leonard Fournette has proven that he is going to be the running back you want in this backfield. You fire him up every week. Next.
Tight ends.
Rob Gronkowski is back, and when he's healthy, he's in your lineup. Next.
Defenses.
Bucks defense is incredible. I do think that the Colts are a good offense, so they don't have as much upside, but you play the Bucks defense.
Kicker.
And you can play the kicker because there should be a high-scoring game, a lot of back and forth. There'll be some field goals in there. So that's going to do it for the fantasy outlook of this matchup. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em. Geoffrey, what's the spread?
The Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites in this matchup.
Colts are at home, but I'm going to have to take the Bucks in this one. They're a great offense and a great defense. I think this is going to be a close matchup, but the Bucks should be able to win by a field goal. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Any last words, Geoffrey?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Good luck in your matchups. Peace. The Miami Dolphins versus the Carolina Panthers. Who to start, who to sit, and Pigskin Pick'em. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the Miami Dolphins. Let's get it started.
Let's start with the quarterback position.
I think you play Tua in this matchup. The Carolina defense is pretty solid, but I think Tua has a chance to have a solid game. I have him as a high-end quarterback too. On to the next one.
Wide receivers.
Jalen Waddle's been playing great this year. This rookie's been top 20 so far. I think you fire him up as a wide receiver too. Next.
Running backs.
Myles Gaskin is playable. I'm not excited about him because he could have a great game, he could have a bad game. Carolina's a pretty good defense, so I'm thinking this is not a great game. I have him as a high-end flex play. On to the next one.
Tight ends.
Mike Gesicki has not been on his A game recently, but the tight end landscape is terrible, so you're firing him up every week. I still think he's one of the best tight ends in the league, but he's going to have his down games. This is the tight end position, but I would fire him up, for sure. He could always have a blow-up game. On to the next one.
Defenses.
Yes, you definitely start the defense in this matchup. Cam Newton did look good last week, but we have seen him in the past turn the ball over and have trouble scoring touchdowns in the air. On the ground, he's kind of still a beast. On to the next one.
Kicker.
Nah, I'm good on that. All right, now it's time for the Carolina Panthers.
Quarterbacks.
Cam Newton showed out last week. He looked like his old self. That being said, the Miami defense is pretty good. I'm still starting him because what I think he can get done on his legs could help mitigate some of those turnovers if he has any. And with the running back like Chris McCaffrey, he's going to get some dump offs to get him an easy 50 yards. On to the next one.
Wide receivers.
DJ Moore, I think, is a wide receiver too in this matchup, and I'm not really looking forward to starting Robbie Anderson. Yes, I know that Cam threw him a touchdown, but I'm just not really confident in him. I don't know why they paid him all this money if they're not going to use him. On to the next one.
Running backs.
You play Christian McCaffrey every single week, of course. Fire him up. Next.
Tight ends.
There might be some better options out there, but Dan Arnold's still not a bad one. But I still think you can play him in this matchup. The tight end landscape is terrible, so we kind of got to deal with what we got. Fire him up if you need him. Next.
Defenses.
I think you can play the defense in this matchup. Tua has been looking better, but he still makes his fair share of mistakes. And the Panthers defense has been pretty good. On to the next one.
Kicker.
I'm kind of whatever about the kicker. So that's going to do it for the fantasy outlook of this matchup. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em. All right, Geoffrey, what's the spread?
The Panthers are 1.5-point favorites in this matchup.
That's a close one. I think both defenses are going to play the quarterback fairly well. But I think Cam Newton's going to be able to come through with the win. Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey are a great duo. Defenses are not going to know what to do with him. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Geoffrey, do you have any last words?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Good luck in your matchups this week. Peace. The Tennessee Titans versus the New England Patriots. Who to start, who to sit, and Pigskin Pick'em. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the New England Patriots.
Quarterbacks.
Though Mac Jones is getting better, I'd prefer not to start him in this game. Next.
Wide receivers.
Jacoby Myers is really the only wide receiver that I'm looking at in this matchup, and at best, he's a flex play. Next.
Running backs.
Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris have kind of been splitting the backfield since Harris has been back. I know it's only been one game, but as long as they're both there, I see it kind of like the backfield in Denver. I think they're going to be splitting the work, and I think they're both playable as low-end running back twos. but with upside because you don't really know which one's going to get the touchdown. One, both, or neither. But I definitely think you can play them. What's next?
Tight ends.
I think you can play Hunter Henry in this matchup. The Titans don't really scare you, but I think that he's going to need a touchdown. Low end tight end one. On to the next one.
Defenses.
You definitely play that defense. This defense has been absolutely incredible. That shutout against Atlanta last week, woo, baby. You got to play the Patriots defense this week. With a broken down Titans team, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of points on that side.
Kicker.
And yeah, you play the kicker too. This man's putting up points. I definitely think you can play him. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans.
Let's start with the quarterback position.
Actually, Geoffrey, let's skip to the point. You're not starting anybody in this matchup. A.J. Brown is out. Julio Jones is out. Derrick Henry's out. And Ryan Tannehill is thrown to a bunch of people that, honestly, most of the NFL community doesn't know. I would prefer not to start any of them. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Outlook. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em. Geoffrey, what's the spread?
The Patriots are 5.5-point favorites in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Patriots on this one. The Titans don't really have anybody in their offense that's going to do any damage, and I just think that the Patriots are going to play great defense and run the ball. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. Geoffrey, do you have any last words?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Good luck in your matchup. Peace. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants. Who to start, who to sit, and Pigskin Pick'em. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the New York Giants. Let's get it started.
Let's start with the quarterback position.
No thank you. Hard pass on Daniel Jones. On to the next one.
Wide receivers.
Man, it's crazy. At the beginning of the year, people were telling me that Kenny Golladay was going to be good, huh? No thank you. Sit on the bench, sir. I do think you can play Kadarius Toney, though, as a flex play. Moving on.
Running backs.
I think Saquon Barkley has earned a place in your starting lineup. While he's healthy, he's probably going to be in your lineup. On to the next one.
Tight ends.
You can play Evan Ingram. They don't have very many people to throw it to right now, and I do think that this should be an interesting back and forth affair against divisional rivals. So, if you're desperate, I think you can play Evan Ingram. Next.
Defenses.
No.
Kicker.
And no. On to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Quarterbacks.
Jalen Hurts is an absolute beast. The Eagles have been playing much better recently. I think that you can start him up. Next.
Wide receivers.
His favorite running mate, Devonta Smith. I definitely think you fire him up as a wide receiver too, and nobody else. Next.
Running backs.
Miles Sanders is a start here. I have him as a running back too, but he really has to get his fumbles under control. Jordan Howard isn't going to be in this matchup, so I do think that he's still going to have a solid workload, but Boston Scott might be involved as well. Coaches aren't going to trust you if you can't hold on to the ball, especially near the 10-yard line. Come on, man. Hold on to the ball. He lost another one, but they got it back. That's the quickest way to get on the bench. Next.
Tight ends.
Dallas Goedert's a solid play. You fire him up. Next.
Defenses.
I actually think you can play the Eagles defense. Daniel Jones is a turnover machine, and the Giants just fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. That's going to do it for this matchup. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em. Geoffrey, what's the spread in this matchup?
The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites in this matchup.
Giants are at home. This is a divisional matchup, and normally I think these are going to be fairly close, but the Giants have not been looking good, so I'm going to have to go with those Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. The Eagles have been looking a lot better lately, and the Giants haven't been, so I just think that's an easy matchup. Divisional games tend to be pretty close, but I just think the Eagles are a better team. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Geoffrey, you have anything before we go?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Good luck in your matchups this week. Peace. The San Francisco 49ers versus the Minnesota Vikings. Who to start, who to sit, and Pigskin Pick'em. I'm Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Let's start off with the home team, the San Francisco 49ers. Let's get it started.
Let's start with the quarterback position.
Jimmy GQ. I actually think it's going to be a solid start this week. The Vikings aren't good against the quarterback, and Jimmy G's been high. On to the next one.
Wide receivers.
You start Deebo Samuel every week. He has been a star this year. And Brandon Ayuk, I think, will be a fine start as well. I have him as a flex play. This should be a high-scoring game. Next.
Running backs.
This one gets a little tricky. Elijah Mitchell was out last week, so Jeff Wilson stepped in and did his job. Jimmy G just missed him on a touchdown pass, which would have changed the outlook of Jeff Wilson last week. If Elijah Mitchell plays, I think you play Elijah Mitchell. If he does not play, then I think you play Jeff Wilson, but I would not be playing Jeff Wilson if Elijah Mitchell was in that lineup. Next.
Tight ends.
You start George Kittle every single week. Down to the defense, no. Kicker, no. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get it started.
Quarterbacks.
I just think that Kirk Cousins has a good matchup. Fire him up this week. Played well against Green Bay last week. San Francisco's a better defense, but I do think that they can actually get it done. It should be a back and forth affair. On to the next one.
Wide receivers.
You start Justin Jefferson every single week, and Adam Thielen is a solid wide receiver too. Next.
Running backs.
Everybody knows to start Dalvin Cook. He's one of the best running backs in the league. Next.
Tight ends.
If you're desperate, you could start Tyler Conklin, but he's really touchdown or bust. Moving on to the defense, no. Kicker, no. That's going to do it for the fantasy outlook of this matchup. Now it's time for Pigskin Pick'em.
The 49ers are 2.5 point favorites in this matchup.
They're at home. I think they can get it done. They've been playing great these last couple weeks, and I think that they keep it up in this matchup. This is going to be a close game, so I do think the Vikings have a chance to win, but home field advantage plus a good defense, I think the 49ers get it done. So that's going to do it for this matchup. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. Geoffrey, you got anything?
See you soon, Bay Nation.
Sounds good. Peace.